Also, can someone tell Alice she's doing a good job with she's been doing great with Kids Church. She's been doing more leading and taking over things with the kids down there. So someone after the service, just tell her she's doing a good job. Can you do that? Because she's doing a great job. Now, we're in the book of Acts, and we're coming to the end now. We've been following Apostle Paul for a while, haven't we? Has it been quite a while? Been following his story, Paul and Silas, and everything that's been going on. What are some key moments we've picked out then? Can anyone bring anything to mind? What are some key moments? We've had Paul in prison. Yeah. We've seen Paul just bringing the gospel, bringing it to different places. Within the book of Acts more broadly, in the early days, we saw how the early church operated. We saw that there was a link between their devotion to God and God's movement, and God doing things, God being involved in people's lives. We saw that they lived in crazy generosity. There's so much in Acts, and even though we're going to be coming to some of the last parts today, the book of Acts is something that we can always go over again and again, because there's a blueprint in there. There's something that God wants us to catch from the book of Acts, something about how the early church operated. Does that make sense? Yeah? But we're going to be coming to Acts 27 today. But first of all, have you ever had something unexpected happen to you? Yeah? Most of us, probably, right? Me and Esther, we are currently in the process of looking to move house. Still in the local area, don't worry. Didn't get thunderous applause there, like woo. So we're just looking to move house in the local area, and you have to go through the process of looking, don't you? You have to go to different places. It's such an awkward process, you know. We've obviously had to put ours up for sale, and it's so awkward trying to sell your house to someone. Anyone that comes in, you're like, well, this is a great room here. It's like, it's a room, you know, it's a room. Like, and this room in particular, the small bedroom, wow. It's such a strange process. But we booked in to view this other house. And we got the confirmation email through, everything seemed great, and, you know, we went to the door, knocked, and we could see some movement. The dog greeted us at the window, like a dog looking at us through the window and thinking, oh, this is interesting. They normally move their dogs to one side. This one, we're going natural with this one. The dog's going to be there. And this guy comes to the door. He opens it. He's in his shorts or some kind of lounge wear. He looks quite, you know, he's very relaxed, very relaxed. He opens the door and he looks at us. He's like, "Can I help you?" And we're like, "Oh, we're here for the viewing. You know, it's 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock. It's time for the viewing." And he goes, "Oh no, I rejected that viewing." He says, "I told them I didn't want a viewing at that time." Yeah, that's right, Beth. And we were thinking, oh no. I mean, because we could feel a bit awkward anyway. We were thinking, oh my goodness, like, we are so sorry. Like, we got an email. We're trying to get the email. We're trying to prove, like, look, no, they told us to come. And he's like, dog's sort of like biting at the heels here, trying to keep back. He's like, well, do you know what? Come on in there, come and have a look. And we're like, no, honestly, it's not far. We don't mind. We can just sort another time out. We're literally in the area. We can just leave and come back another time. It's like, no, you're coming in. Come on. Coming in now. Like, but don't mind the mess. There's a bit of a mess. I'd normally sort it out, okay? So how would you feel? Come on. You'd feel like you're imposing really bad, wouldn't you? We're like, oh, okay, we'll come in. Great. Yeah, let's go in. And so we came in, and there's a bit of a mess. And it's a lovely house, but what got me is, we walk into the bedroom, there's some underwear just on the floor, but in one swift movement, it just goes, kicks it straight into the corner. It's like, this is the bedroom. We couldn't believe it. We're like, it's excellent. Wow, amazing. So we kind of awkwardly got through that situation, and he was lovely. He handled it very well, and we just felt very awkward on the way. But that was unexpected. And most of us, we're not good at dealing with unexpected things, are we? You know, who likes it when someone just turns up at the house unexpectedly? Beth? Beth Foot? No, they don't, really don't. Don't try it with Beth Foot, they don't. Most of us, we don't. And here, again, we've got this idea with Paul that He's got this unexpected thing taking place. Because we always have this idea of what we want to happen, but we see in the Bible that these storms, these trials, these unexpected things, they always come. They always come, don't they? And I can't stand up here and say to you, look, do you know what? You just follow God and everything's going to be great. You'll never have any troubles, because we know that storms and trials come, but it's not how they come. It's how we deal with them. Now, it's a big thing in life, and one of the big questions that we, perhaps in the church and in the world, that we struggle with is why these storms come. Is the problem of evil, they'd put it in Bible college. Why do these things happen to people? And that is a big theological question that you could spend a long time studying and trying to answer, and you may still never get to the bottom of it. But ultimately, we know that we live in a fallen world. So while ever we are this side of heaven, things can just happen. Storms can come, trials can come. And as I said, it is in those moments we need to draw to God and see how we will react. See, Jesus in the book of Matthew, he says that the rain falls on the just and the unjust alike. That actually sometimes things will just take place. The rain falls on the just and the unjust alike. Ever had the rain fall on you? Yeah. You ever had those problems just come? Have you ever thought to yourself, God, why is this happening to me? Yeah? If we're being honest, surely we have. I mean, I know I have. I mean, this has been a tough year for us, and part of that, it's hard. You've got to fight the human mind. The human mind says, God, why is this happening? Where are you in this? And we have to come back to Scripture again and again. He says the storm, the process of a storm or a trial taking place does not mean the absence of God. What it means is, how are we going to draw near to God while it's taking place? So, we pick up with Paul, and he's been going through so much. Again, he would be considered one of God's generals, a great example of how to live the Christian life, I suppose. And he goes through issue after issue after issue. And most of us would probably say, I just want an easy life. Paul didn't get that. He probably should have just never pursued Jesus if he wanted the easy life. But so we pick up the story later on now, and he's back in Jerusalem. And again, what's happened is the local Pharisees, the local religious leaders, have just been bringing accusation after accusation against him, charge after charge. And we find that for whatever reason now, he is under arrest. He is in captivity. But what he's been able to do is use his Roman citizenship, again, we've looked at that briefly before, to appeal to Caesar. So the locals, they've charged him with things, they're trying to get him in trouble. But again, he can use that Roman citizenship and say, all of this that's taking place, we're going to appeal it to Caesar. But what that means is, he has to go to Rome. Now, Paul, when we look through Scripture, and when you look at scholars, he would have always had it in mind that he wanted to go to Rome. He's been going everywhere, hasn't he? He's had influence in loads of places. He's written letters all over the place, and Rome is obviously a key point. So he wants to go there. But I wonder, did he imagine himself in this context, heading back to this area or heading to this area? See, because what we find is, in Acts 27, he is going to make a journey to Rome, but it is as a prisoner. It is under this context of making this appeal to Caesar. Sometimes, I say, we have these unexpected things, don't we? See, God might have given you some kind of promise or a vision or an idea or a calling or just something that you were meant to do. And maybe it's just not happening in the way you thought it would. Sometimes we go into these seasons that don't make sense. I know if I look back at my life, I think when I look at my time at university, and I did criminology. And you always get, whenever you're in ministry, it's such a disconnect. People say, wait, hang on, you're in ministry and you studied criminology. And they scratch their head a little bit. They look a bit worried for a start, and then they're thinking, well, how did you go from this to that? And You can look at the seasons of your life in the past and think, well, at the time, it didn't make sense. At the time, I didn't see the connection between how am I serving God, how am I walking in God's will in this, until later on. Does that make sense? We can be in something right now, a storm or a trial, and we're thinking, if we're being honest, God, what is the point of this? What are you trying to teach me through this? Where is the connection between your plan and what's taking place? But we have to just walk through those seasons. We have to just be faithful and just put one foot in front of the other. Does that make sense, yeah? You with me? Now, so Paul, he's on this ship, and this would have been a longish journey. And scholars said at the time when they were making this journey, it's when the seas were getting pretty bad, and they probably shouldn't have been making it. They weren't in the best of boats, if you look at what the scholars say. And Paul gave them a warning and said, look, I don't think we should be doing this. Why don't we stay at this place here for a while, and then we can just pick up the journey later on. But they didn't want to do that. They kept going, and we know the famous story that comes to pass that they end up getting shipwrecked. But with that taking place, before that happens, listen to this. After they had gone a long time without food, Paul stood up before them and said, men, you should have taken my advice not to sail from Crete. Then you would have spared yourselves this damage and loss. But now I urge you to keep up your courage, because not one of you will be lost. Only the ship will be destroyed. Last night, an angel of God, to whom I belong and whom I serve, stood beside me and said, do not be afraid, Paul. You must stand trial before Caesar, and God has graciously given you the lives of all who sail with you. So keep up your courage, for I have faith in God that it will happen just as he told me. So a storm's coming. He knows it's coming. God's told him it's coming. But he said, do not be afraid. I'll be with you. Think of your own prayer life for a second. What are your top 5 prayers? Is there something that you pray for repeatedly? You know, the big struggles or the big things you're giving thanks for in your life. What are you praying for? How many of those prayers could we reduce to, God, don't send this storm? You ever had a prayer like that? God, don't send the storm. God, spare me the storm. God, you're all powerful. Don't bring this on me. We don't need this happening. My goodness. I mean, I've prayed some prayers like that before. God, spare me this. Don't let this happen, Lord. Okay, you're the king. You're in charge. You've got dominion over all things. This storm is coming nowhere near me. And he says, no. Actually, the storm is coming. But what you need to know is when that storm hits, remember what you are grounded in. Just, I am going to be with you, okay? In this storm, when it's coming, the rain's picking up, the winds are picking up, the pressure is picking up, but I am going to be with you. Don't be afraid. There may be some damage, but you will overcome this storm. And we see this pattern again and again with Paul. It's almost like we weren't made to be stormless. But actually, we're here on this earth, this side of heaven. It's that each storm, each trial, it starts to mold us, it starts to shape us, doesn't it? Because when we're thinking short term, when I'm thinking short term, I look at the storm and I think, God, I don't want the storm. There's no point to this storm. It's just going to cause damage. Take the storm away and let me go back to plain sailing. And when we look at God's perspective, as hard as it is, as uncomfortable as it is for us, that's just never his goal. His goal is he's looking at you and he thinks, I see you in eternity. And I know after this brief life of existence, there is an eternity at stake. And I have plans for you in that eternity. And the things you learn right now, the things you learn in a trial today, in a storm today, will sit with you in 1,000 years' time. 2,000 years' time. They will make who you will be in the new age to come. Isn't that crazy? Have you ever thought about that? We think, God, what's the point? He says, you'll know the point one day. You'll know the point one day, because those who are trusted with little will be trusted with much. Those who pick up their cross and walk through the storm right now, I'll be able to set them over things of many. We don't often think about the structure of the world to come, do we? It says there will be roles, responsibilities in a way. The things you're going through right now, yes, we can learn from them right now. Let them work on your character and your attitude and your heart. Let those things be changed by God. But know that there is a bigger picture coming. We can look at this as a place of negativity, but God loves us so much. I look at Judah now. Every week he does something that just makes me laugh. And every week he's changing, and you see how stubborn and strong he's getting with things. But I just love him so much. And when we take that love, it just shows me, how does God feel about us? Because even when Judah is not even when he's misbehaving slightly, it doesn't change that love. And we want to instruct him and help him to just grow in the right way. But my love for him is just there. And we're obviously looking at him through a bigger picture, aren't we? We want to see how he grows. We want him to grow up in the best way possible. This storm has hit them. This storm's hit them. Paul knew it was coming. God said, do not worry. I'll be with you in this. I'll be with you in the storm. How do you think the soldiers, the people with him would have thought? Would have felt? Well, the person we're taking to Rome, because we think he's crazy and he's been causing trouble all over, we're taking him to Rome, he's appealing to Caesar. He's telling us that his God is with him in the storm, and he says, actually, we're all going to be fine. How would they have been? We've seen before, his faith has an effect on people. When you're going through a storm, the way you act, where you put your faith in that moment will have an effect on other people. We can choose to go into panic mode, which might be really reasonable, really normal. Or we can find a place of strength and say, God, I know that you'll be with me. Now, before we wrap up, we've got 3 things that the storm is useful for, because none of us like them, but if we're going to go through them, we might as well make the most of it. The first point is that it changes your comfort zone. Most of us, we like our comfort zone. We do not want to leave the comfort zone. Is that fair? We don't want to leave there. And yet when we look at the Bible, can you find me any time some amazing spiritual growth takes place from people just staying in their comfort zone? Where does that happen? See, the comfort zone, we love it, but ultimately it does us no good. We back on? We back on? Did you hear me okay a little bit? I'm not really much of a shouter. It's kind of forcing me to. The comfort zone, it can trap us. Some of us right now, if I can be honest and candid, as a church and as a nation, the biggest issue we need to deal with is our comfort zones. Because we all say in our mind, we all say, oh God, I want to see you move. I want to see amazing things happen. But we don't show it with our comfort zone. You know, we've looked at this example again and again. Jesus is calling you out of the boat. That's what he wants for you. He wants you to leave the boat. And the biggest obstacle we have is to leave the boat. Because life's busy, I get that. But I wonder, on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready would you be right now to just leave your comfort zone if Jesus came in and said, follow me? It's hard, isn't it? You know, the enemy need not do anything to us if we just stay in our comfort zone. And this is a message to all of us as individuals and as a church as we move forward into the next season. Remember, we started this whole Book of Acts sermon series on spiritual authority, and the way we grow in that is actually by moving out of the comfort zone. It's giving more areas of our life over to faith. It's saying this part of my life I hold to myself because I'm worried about it, I'm insecure about it, I'm fearful over it, but the greatest thing I can actually do is to give it to you, is to leave the comfort zone. The second thing that a storm does is it reveals who we really are. It reveals what's going on in our heart and what needs to change. Because when you have a moment of pressure applied, that's when you find out what's inside. And that can be really valuable, but also really scary. And the third thing is it changes our priorities. You notice that we have like a scale and importance of things, don't we? On a normal day, when everything's going fine, you might think, what are the most important things to me? Well, the people in my life, or my job, or my house, or my savings. If someone comes up to you and they're robbing you, all of a sudden it's your life or your money. What's more important? I'm glad I said that. For a minute I'm thinking, guys, no, it's not the money, okay? It's your life. I was just picturing people just clutching their wallets then. Like, no, you can try if you want, but absolutely not. When that pressure is applied, we have a scale, a hierarchy. No, our life is more important. Life is more important than our comfort. Life is more important than our money. And then the same time, when we look through our spiritual eyes, our eternity is more important than anything else that takes place here. That is hard to get our head around because we value life and we're so thankful for it. But eternity is so important.